answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The Middle East is bracing for the possibility that the region returns to war in the days ahead. Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Khalibaf posted to X overnight saying our armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response to any aggression. Mistaken strategy and mistaken decisions will always lead to mistaken results. The whole world has already figured this out. We are prepared for all options. They will be surprised. The threatening language comes after President Trump rejected the Iranian response to the U.S. peace proposal, calling it a piece of garbage, as he indicated the ceasefire is on life support.
It's unbelievably weak. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. I said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
On life support, as is the nation of Iran and the leaders of Iran, the regime. And nowhere in this new peace proposal, supposedly groundbreaking in the view of Iran, is there a word about we will cease trying to have nuclear weapons. That's the key point, and they know it. They continue stalling. But you know what's happening? You want to know the real story of what's happening in Iran? Look at what some of the sources are reporting, that first, the Iranian leader that took over after his father was killed, there were reports that he is probably dead. He has not been seen on any video, nor his voice. They keep telling you, oh, he's okay, he's recuperating from some injuries, but he's okay. There is no proof of life. But above that, those regime leaders still trying to hold control in Iran, they're already booking plans to get to Russia. They're preparing to move to Russia for safety. They know what's coming. And let's address right away the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. Inflation numbers are up for the first time in 3 years. Even Axios puts it this way. For the first time in 3 years, American workers' paychecks are lagging behind inflation, a casualty of the Iran war energy shock. CNN puts it this way. For the first time in 3 years, wages aren't outpacing inflation. And they also say we have a survey showing Americans are angry over the high cost of living and prices. Yes, prices are up, not just for fuel, but other items that you need because it has to be delivered to your local store by truck, van, or some other way. And yes, airline prices will be continuing to go up until this is resolved, especially if you're going to go to Europe, where they're having a very scarce availability of fuel. And all of this is tied to the Iran war they are wanting you to believe. I'm not going to deny that it's happening, but here's where they're trying to play with you. Every time inflation numbers are reported, they normally take out what is called the core index. That would be the cost of food and fuel. Well, they made sure to include it this time because that way it will push the numbers up. And that's what they did. But still, according to Axios, workers are now earning less in real terms. American households continue to feel the brunt of surging energy costs, adding to the deluge of inflation they've weathered since the pandemic. Yeah, don't forget that, how much the pandemic set us off course to begin with. And the economist Edward Jones stated, moreover, with the Strait of Hormuz still effectively shuttered, the risk that we are not past the peak of these prices will increase. The Consumer Price Index rose 3.8% in April from the same time a year ago. The previous month, 3.3%. So we're at the highest level since 2013. And those numbers include core numbers, which normally are taken out. That would be oil and fuel and groceries. And they account for 40% of the inflation increase. That doesn't deny the fact of what you're going to be paying. I'm not trying to say it doesn't affect, but I want you to understand the reasoning behind it and how the left is saying, look, oh my God, the sky's falling. Prices of inflation the highest in 3 years, and it's under Trump. And it's because he started a war. He joined with the Jews to go after Iran. That's what they want you to hear. Well, you're going to get the right story right here. Welcome to hour number one, Larry Connors USA, May 12, 2026. Reminding you with Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education. And part of the education will be a closer look at the inflation numbers later on in the second hour in more detail. And let me take a moment to tell you something. We have kind of a friendly competition among the various show hosts here at NewsTalkSTL. I know tens of thousands of you are listening right now. I know that. And not just in the St. Louis area, because you have our app, our free app, NewsTalkSTL. You can open it up anywhere on your phone. Your phone becomes your radio. You're listening to the program that's on the air right now, which would be Larry Connors USA. And we also stream video when we're on the air, like right now. Larry Connors USA, Rumble, Facebook, or NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. And, of course, you can always pull it up later as an audio or video podcast at those sources, such as LarryConnorsUSA.com. You folks, I want to thank you. You continue to be our multiplying factor. I'm watching the numbers for Rumble on Larry Connors USA continue to accelerate. That is not to be dismissive of our other hosts. They're all great. We all work together well. But you are a multiplying factor for Larry Connors USA. Please continue. In our next hour, Alaska considered ground zero for ending all the Biden regs which crippled our oil and gas industry, putting in a worse strait than what we should be right now. And later this hour, Fred Flight's 30 years of national intel going to bring us up to speed on his view of Iran. He is an expert on Iran. Fred Flight's. And, of course, the story behind the story on this date, the body of the kidnapped baby Lindbergh was found. That's our story behind the story. Now, for another view of what's happening with Iran and what may be taking place with the president as he tries to deal with them, here's a coordinator for counterterrorism, Nathan Sales.
Yeah, it's time to turn up the heat on Iran. These guys have been cheating on the ceasefire from day one, and their latest response shows they're just not taking this process seriously. So we've been very patient with these guys. The president has been very patient with the Iranians. The Iranians don't see that as patience. They see it as weakness. And it's time to get their attention. The president certainly has options on the table that he's working through right now to figure out from a scale of 1 to 10.
All at once.
Yeah. So you could go 10, but there are intermediate steps you could do as well. And I think whatever you end up doing, at a minimum, you've got to restart Project Freedom. We've got to keep the economic pressure on the Iranians. We're squeezing their economy, and they're going to run out of gas at a certain point. But at the same time, we need to be reopening that lifeline that the world needs and that we need for commerce, legitimate commerce, to be going in and out of the strait. That's the first step.
And that's a good first step. But keep in mind the real issue is Iran and its nuclear capability efforts. And let me remind you again, as I said at the beginning, there are reports that numerous of the so-called what's left of the regime are booking flights to get to Moscow, somewhere in Russia. They're going into exile. They want to get out of Iran. They can see what's going to happen. Does that say like they're winning? Oh, hell no, it doesn't. And Trey Yingst to Fox News points out we still have that other issue President Trump is dealing with.
President Trump also indicated that Iran made commitments about the buried uranium and then didn't include those commitments in their response. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said this on Monday.
Therefore, everything we proposed in our text consisted of reasonable demands, responsible proposals, and generous suggestions, not only for Iran's national interests, but also for the good, stability, and security of the entire region and the world.
We're also tracking reporting from Fox's Brett Baer that indicates the UAE took part in the war, striking Iran's Lavon Island around the time the ceasefire went into effect last month. Here in Israel, more cargo planes and refuelers are landing each day as the country prepares for the possibility that combat operations resume.
And again, the nation of Qatar, or Qatar if you want to use that phrase, says Iran should not be using the strait as a weapon to pressure or blackmail the Gulf countries. And, of course, that's in addition to bombing the United Arab Emirates, or trying to anyway. Everybody in that region is against Iran right now. And it's not just to have the strait open, but to make sure Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. Secretary of War Hegseth, talking to the Senate Committee on Appropriations, we will fight to win in every scenario to include ensuring Iran never has a nuclear weapon. Do not forget, that is the key issue here. The issue. And Iran says, well, what we do have left, it's buried so deep we can't even get to it. Well, then let us come in and see it. But as you heard in that report from Trey Yanks, they didn't even mention that in their latest peace proposal. Oh, yeah, we'll let you come in and look at the uranium, see if you can find it. They're not going to do anything like that. I don't know that there will be, quote, a peace proposal when it gets all said and done. I should say a peace agreement. I think it's going to come down to Elvis left the building along with the regime leaders. Got the hell out of Dodge because they know they're facing the wrath of the U.S. and their neighboring states, Muslim states. And yet, from the leftist publication, The Hill, one of their spoken outlets, stating Trump is just lost on this issue.
The plain fact of the matter is that Trump miscalculated badly on Iran. Why he did so is in some ways beside the point. Maybe it was hubris. Maybe it was the influence of Netanyahu, who has wanted to attack Iran for decades. Maybe it was unwarranted confidence stemming from the operation in Venezuela at the turn of the year, which quickly captured Nicolas Maduro and relatively smoothly inserted a new, more America-friendly leader in his place. Whatever, Trump is now in a dilemma from which there is no easy way out. Iran believes it has already won a strategic victory by virtue of its simple survival. That leaves the leadership of the Islamic Republic looking extremely unlikely to offer the kind of concession or capitulation that Trump wants. And that, in turn, leaves Trump with two basic choices: to resume an all-out war, or to accept far less than he once wanted, declare victory anyways, and get out.
And we're not going to do that. But I tell you who's getting out? The Iranian leadership, regime leadership. They are trying to get to Russia for safety. By the way, in our next hour, I'm going to tell you that Nancy Pelosi is already saying all of this should affect Trump at the polls for the midterm and otherwise. But she's also saying Trump will be rigging the election. If anyone knows about rigging an election, it would be Pelosi. We'll come back to that in our second hour. In the meantime, Trump headed to China to meet with Premier Xi, his last visit, 2017. Now, this meeting here was to be in either March or April, but the Iran war happened. Well, leftists are now claiming that the Trump visit at this time is really just going to be a dog and pony show. The White House says not true.
Well, the president, of course, has a great relationship with President Xi, and I think we can expect more of what this president has done over the past year when past presidents, unfortunately, sold out American industries, shipped jobs overseas. This president, thankfully, put an end to that practice and rebalanced trade, rebalanced the economic order to put America first, just as he promised. So this, of course, will be a visit of tremendous symbolic significance. But as you said, there are a number of CEOs coming on this trip because this president never travels for symbolism alone, the American people can expect more good deals for our country, continued work on the U.S.-China Board of Trade, deals spanning the aerospace, energy, agriculture industries that ultimately will end that practice of shipping jobs overseas and selling out American workers in favor of policies and agreements that put America first and revitalize our economy here at home.
Well, she sounds just like the actual press secretary, who is now on paternity leave. But that was the woman who is now taken over for that part, White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly. But she's got her facts and notes down as well. Kevin Rudd is the head of the Asia Society in U.S., former Prime Minister of Australia, and he thinks there will be a lot of good to come out of the meeting with China.
She is enormously self-confident. He has no serious political opposition, and he thinks he's in a reasonably strong position, particularly given what he's done with technology recently and advances within China. But at the same time, he also recognizes he has an underperforming economy and rising youth unemployment. So when he looks at this summit, his baseline interest, in my view, Brett, is I, Xi Jinping, would like to have a stabilized U.S. relationship because I need that in order to stabilize and improve my own economic performance.
That's what he would like. So he's going to be looking for ways to get a deal with Trump. And, of course, we all know that Trump is the author of the deal. And we will probably come away with some things that would be beneficial for Americans and probably for the Chinese to an extent. By the way, I have already booked Gordon Chang for Friday because that will happen after the two-day summit between Trump and Xi. So Gordon Chang will be with us Friday, looking over what was or was not accomplished in that meeting. Gordon Chang, an expert on China. Coming up, an expert on Iran, Fred Fleitz, now Vice Chair of America's First Policy on Iran. He has 30 years national intel experience, so when he talks about what's happening behind the scenes, while he cannot give you specifics, he knows the game. He knows the players. So Fred Fleitz will be coming up. And the story behind the story, before we wrap this hour. It was on this date the kidnapped body of baby Lindbergh was found. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Spring weather has everyone sneezing, even inside their home or building. Instead of saying Gesundheit, call Wellington Environmental to perform air tests to determine if mold levels are too high. Gesundheit is the same as saying bless you after someone sneezes, the German word meaning wishing you good health. Wellington Environmental can perform air testing that is simple, fast, and can identify issues keeping you from having good health. Wellington does the same for hospitals and nursing homes for indoor concerns. Give them a call. It's simple. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Tell Cindy, I need air sampling. They've seen it all. They can help you. Next time you hear Gesundheit, think Wellington. Wellington Environmental. Be well with Wellington. True comfort is something you should feel every day in your home. It's the quiet of your mornings, the consistency of your indoor temperature, the way your home feels season after season. With Renewal by Andersen, from consultation through installation, everything is handled by one experienced team, built around your home, your schedule. Our exclusive Fibrex material, stronger than vinyl, built for extreme temperatures. And right now, you can save 20% off your entire project. Plus, take an additional $100 off every window and door, up to $1,000. 20% off the entire project. Flexible financing is available, but you need to call by April 30th. 877-WINDOWS. RenewalByAndersen.com. 877-WINDOWS. RenewalByAndersen.com. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com.
This is News Talk STL.
I said, brother, if you only knew, you'd wish that you were in my shoes. You just keep on using me until you use me up. Until you use me up.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. My guest we've had on numerous times before, and the reason we do is because he's an expert in his field. Fred Fleitz, now currently the vice chair, as I was saying earlier, of America First Foundation. Let me correct that, state it better for you, because I did not say it exactly as it should be. Fred Fleitz is vice chair of, you thought I was going to blow it, didn't you? America First Policy. Now, Fred, dealing with Iran. Welcome aboard first. Glad to have you with us.
Hey, great to be here.
So Iran is claiming that they have presented a good peace proposal again, and Trump calls it trash, and in part because the main ingredient was not even addressed, and that is we will cease trying to have a nuclear weapon.
It was a terrible response to the U.S. offer. Not only is Iran refusing to give up its nuclear program, it's not going to disassemble its nuclear sites. It says it will agree to restrict its uranium enrichment for a short time, but it asks for war reparations. It asks for the U.S. to recognize its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, which means it's going to start imposing tolls. Mm-hmm. It was completely unacceptable. Frankly, it was disrespectful of our country and President Trump.
And at the same time, the Qatar prime minister is saying that Iran should, quote, not use the strait as a weapon to pressure or blackmail the Gulf countries. Well, they've also been firing upon the United Arab Emirates. They've got angry countries all around them, which you would think would be aligned with them.
I think one of the consequences of this war is that Iran has really alienated just about every neighbor. I mean, obviously, Iran had pre-positioned missiles and drones to attack their neighbors and has fired thousands of the UAE. Now, I understand the UAE, according to the media, is now launching special operations into Iran in retaliation. I think there's going to be a new Arab-Israeli alliance coming from this war because they're so sick and tired of the aggression from Iran.
When your information, based on what you have that you can share, when you say they're launching operation, are we talking about ground forces?
I think, I don't know what it is exactly. I've saw several reports in the media. I can't confirm them. It sounds like it's special operations that the UAE sent in to some locations in Iran. Now, the UAE actually has a pretty good military, but it's small, and it's been involved in conflicts in some other areas of the world, but it isn't in a position to fight the Iranian military head on head.
Wouldn't an alliance, though, between the UAE or even other Gulf nations joining with Israel to go after Iran? That is world shaking.
Think about this. Israel is providing Iron Dome weapons to the UAE to defend it against Iranian missiles. Who would have thought a few years ago that there'd ever be such collaboration between Israel and an Arab state?
And what is the driving force?
Well, I mean, they see Iran as a mutual threat, and that was what was behind the Abraham Accords, which the Trump administration negotiated in the first term. But the need to cooperate is much greater now because of Iran's aggression, not just its pursuit of nuclear weapons in its missile program, but the fact that it is a rogue state that obviously is prepared to attack anyone, to break international law by taking control of the Strait of Hormuz. It is a serious threat to global and international security. So that's why these states are aligning, I think, against Iran.
Now, the other issue on the plate is the reports. There are reports, I know you've seen them as well, while Iran is claiming it's winning and Trump doesn't know what he's doing, and they're getting a lot of applause and support from the leftist legacy media, basically saying that Trump is in too deep, doesn't know what to do. He either has to walk away with less than what he wanted or just drop everything. You've heard those reports.
I think the Iranian leadership must love reading the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Absolutely.
And, this is what they say every day. But the fact is, this country's military is broken. Its economy is an absolute disaster. And obviously their propaganda arm is still up and running and spouting lies at the speed of light. But there was an incredible piece in the New York Times over the weekend about massive layoffs in Iran. Their e-commerce capability has been destroyed. Their economy was already in bad shape because of mismanagement last year. But right now, they have the prospect of not being able to pay their security forces, their military. Average Iranians have no jobs, have no money, have no water, have no food. I don't think this is a sustainable situation.
And to that extent, while Iran proclaims that it's still winning and in control and we should be fearing them, there have been reports circulating that some of the higher-ups still alive in the regime are already booking flights to Moscow, somewhere in Russia.
I think that's true, and we've been hearing reports for months that the Iranian elites and leaders are moving their money out of the country because they're fearful about what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, this is a country run by Islamist fanatics. They're prepared to go down in flame. And I think, frankly, that the security threats are not going to be addressed until the people take back their country.
And that's asking a lot of them. I mean, it's one thing to sit here and say that's what they should do, but one, they don't have the weapons. Supposedly we were going to give Kurdish rebels weapons to go in and do it. I have not seen any new developments on that front.
I think there's more going on behind the scenes than we know. I saw those reports of the president's frustration with the Kurds. I don't know how true that is. It may take some time. I think the Iranian people will rise up again, and I believe there are things being done by the U.S. and Israel to help them.
And there will be massive bloodshed, as it is right now, of the Iranian people.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's right, but we have to hope there's going to be divisions within the military and the security forces, that they will side with the people. They'll side against this chaos, this destruction of the country that the regime is causing.
You would think that it signals it's a clear message when you know it's circulating, although they've shut off internet in Iran. You know the word is circulating that a lot of the higher-ups, the oligarchs and others that still exist, are sending their money away, and they're going to follow it.
I think the Iranian people have a pretty good idea what's going on, but there is really a lack of information because the regime has been so successful in closing off the internet and access to the outside world. I hope there's a way that the U.S. and Israel can address that.
The other thing Trump also often talks about, well, we're dealing with different factions inside Iran. I mean, and he has said that the more recent faction they're dealing with seems to be more pliable and willing to accept better deals because they realize we are on the ropes, but yet the official state word is we are in control and the U.S. is nothing.
I think there is an element that would like to stop the war. I don't think they're moderate. They just see the country being destroyed. but I believe there's hardline Revolutionary Guard officials who simply won't compromise. I'm not really sure who we're dealing with or who has control, but there's also arguments that the government is worse than before. It's more radical than before. Well, the old set of leaders were responsible for executing 40,000 protesters in January, so I don't see any difference.
Yeah, and hanging a young teenage athlete just in the public square just because he spoke out. Fred, do you see a time that they might actually go back to as they were in 1979, one of the most Western nations in that part of the world?
I hope so. I think it's gonna take a while, but I think the Iranian people are desperate for change, and I hope they can move on this soon.
All right, I cannot let you go without tying this to China, and President Trump headed to meet with Premier Xi starting tomorrow or the day after.
It's very good timing for a meeting. Both states want good relations. They want to extend the truce on tariffs. I think there's going to be good news for the American farmer, for American manufacturers, including Boeing. And Trump is going to ask for Xi's help with Iran. The Chinese are incredibly dependent on the Strait of Hormuz for their energy. Xi could help if he wants to, and I hope Trump will get through to him.
There was a report yesterday, and I can't recall the source, that said China is betraying Iran at this point.
I think the Iranians are frustrated that China hasn't been more out in front and helping them. And it's interesting how there was this so-called axis of Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, but the other members of the axis don't seem too willing in helping very much. I mean, the rhetorical help, there's some help to the Iranian military, but I think it's been pretty limited.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen, North Korea marching in a Russian World War II victory parade. That's it.
Yeah, that's right. Which is we should discuss that on another call, but that's right.
Fred Fleitz, as always, I thank you for your expertise. 30 plus years in national intel, now vice chair of America First policy on Iran and all these other issues. Thanks again, Fred.
Good to be here. Thanks, Larry.
You bet. By the way, the Indian Prime Minister is demanding pandemic-era work from home. What's happening in India? No illness. It's just because of the Strait of Hormuz fuel crisis. He's saying, stay at home. Don't be traveling. Don't be using fuel. Wonder how that's going to go over inside India. Coming up, this feature that we have started to close out each 6 o'clock hour, the story behind the story. This time, on this date, baby Lindbergh was found dead.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I want to share something with you. Cooking a pizza using coal creates an amazing pizza. Only one place to get it, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. Of course, they offer a wide variety of pasta, but you just visit the website NapoliSTL.com, dine in or take out, and get ready for patio season. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Try it. You can thank me later. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. True comfort is something you should feel every day in your home. It's the quiet of your mornings, the consistency of your indoor temperature, the way your home feels season after season. With Renewal by Andersen, from consultation through installation, everything is handled by one experienced team, built around your home, your schedule. Our exclusive Fibrex material, stronger than vinyl, built for extreme temperatures. And right now, you can save 20% off your entire project. Plus, take an additional $100 off every window and door, up to $1,000. 20% off the entire project. Flexible financing is available, but you need to call by April 30th. 877-WINDOWS. RenewalByAnderson.com. 877-WINDOWS. RenewalByAnderson.com. When insurance companies know you're represented by Onder Law, they know Onder is not going to let you be pushed around. Their reputation is built on years of courtroom battles. If you suffer an injury or damage to your property, serve the insurance company notice you have Onder Law on your side, a St. Louis firm you can trust to protect you at every term. Don't settle for less. You want to win? Believe me, Onder wins. Onder, O-N-D-E-R, underlaw.com.
This is News Talk STL.
You should have closed your windows and got another dog. You should have chained up all the doors and switched up all the locks. And how many times have I prayed?
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Now, Larry Connors with the story behind the story.
In the early 1930s, aviator Charles Lindbergh was one of the most famous men in the world. So when Lindbergh's infant son was kidnapped and murdered, the press was quick to dub it the crime of the century. Despite the media attention, the police investigation quickly stalled. For over 2 years, the identity of the Lindbergh baby kidnapper was one of history's greatest mysteries.
New York City, 1927. As the world watches, Charles Lindbergh readies himself for a feat never before achieved by mankind. A solo flight from the United States to Europe. Lindbergh's whole life has led to this moment. Dropping out of college to become a stunt pilot, and then enlisting in the U.S. Army to join flight school. He opts for a single-engine plane without a parachute or radio, so he can store more gasoline. And the newspapers call him the Flying Fool. Nevertheless, Lindbergh takes off from Roosevelt Field in Long Island, beginning his long voyage to Paris. Almost 34 hours later, Lindbergh safely touches down in Paris to a crowd of 100,000 adoring fans.
That was all an exciting time for Charles Lindbergh and the world. And later, Charles would marry Ann Spencer, May 27th, 1929. But then at approximately 9 o'clock, on March 1st, 1932, their world got turned upside down. They thought they were safe because even with the economy and the nation the way it was, Lindbergh was certainly admired, respected, had donors and money. He was able to set up an estate safe away from the public, even if they wanted to adore him. He wanted some safety and security, as any man would for his family. And so then they moved into the estate.
The couple moves to a large estate in Hopewell, New Jersey, ready to raise young Charles Jr. without the media fanfare of their past. But within a year, the Lindberghs would experience one of the most severe media frenzies in history, a story that would capture the attention of a nation and haunt the couple for the rest of their lives. March 1st, 1932, 9 p.m., Charles Lindbergh, his wife, and their wily terrier, Wagush, relax in their home as 20-month-old Charles Jr. sleeps soundly in the nursery upstairs. But outside the safety of the Lindbergh home, in the darkness of their 600-acre estate lurks a clandestine figure. He uses a makeshift ladder to enter the infant's second-floor nursery and snatches Charles Jr. from his crib. Unseen by the baby's parents, the house workers, and the family dog, the mysterious kidnapper vanishes into the cold, damp night with a 20-month-old son of America's biggest celebrity. He leaves behind only traces of mud, a broken ladder, and a handwritten ransom note demanding $50,000 in exchange for the safe return of Charles Jr. By 10 p.m., the baby's nurse discovers the empty crib and alerts the Lindberghs. 30 minutes later, law enforcement, detectives, and the media arrive at the estate, and before midnight, the nation is transfixed as the manhunt for the Lindbergh kidnapper begins. An egregious act immediately dubbed the crime of the century.
And obviously it was. And it captivated every headline. If you'd had modern-day communications as we do now, it would have been wall-to-wall coverage on a constant basis on everything. Baby Lindbergh, 20 months old, in his crib at one moment and then gone. His mother had just come out of the bath, was unaware that the baby was not in the crib. The Lindbergh's nurse realized the baby's not here. And she found that ransom note demanding $50,000. Poor handwriting and grammar. Lindbergh himself took a gun, went around the house and grounds with the family butler trying to find something. All they found impressions on the ground under the window of the baby's room and pieces of a wooden ladder and a baby's blanket. So they called the local police, and Lindbergh contacted his attorney and friend and the New Jersey State Police. Keep in mind, this is happening in 1932. Another note came, and this piece of audio, like some of the other, is coming from the History Channel.
Just 3 days after the crime is committed, the Lindberghs receive a new ransom note, wrought with misspellings, demanding an increased sum to be paid of $70,000, or an inflation-adjusted $1 million. Eager to help, retired school principal Dr. John Condon volunteers to act as the intermediary between the family and the kidnapper. The kidnapper and Lindbergh agree, and Dr. Condon becomes the conduit. 1 month and 12 ransom notes after the kidnapping, Condon finally sets up a meeting to exchange the money for information detailing the child's whereabouts. The kidnapper identifies himself as John and does little to hide his appearance from Condon. Dr. Condon hands over a bag of bills and gold notes and receives a letter in return, pointing authorities to a boat named Nellie near Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. The stranger departs, but Condon remains confident that he could identify the kidnapper if he were to ever see him again.
And a sketch artist followed Condon's description, and that was plastered everywhere. They went to Martha's Vineyard, and that boat Nellie did not exist. And they still did not know what had happened to the baby at that point. Jump ahead. After the baby's been found, but still no one to be charged with what happened in the kidnapping and eventual death, murder of baby Lindbergh. Jump ahead, May 12, 1936.
1 year after the kidnapping, Charles Jr. is found dead and decomposed, less than 5 miles from the Lindbergh home. Skull bruises indicate death by trauma to the head. A family and a nation mourns, but becomes resolved to locating the murderer and bringing him to justice. So how does a criminal, incapable of writing a literate ransom note, stage a kidnapping that fools the nation? With both Lindbergh parents awake and a house full of staff relatively unknown to the couple, the notion of an inside job remains a possibility. The broken ladder left at the scene of the crime implies the descent may have gone wrong, resulting in the kidnapper accidentally dropping the baby. Suspicion quickly falls on Violet Sharp, a housekeeper at the Lindbergh estate. Sharp's shifting alibis and uncooperative attitude towards police make her a prime suspect. 1 year later, after the discovery of the baby's body, Sharp is brought in for questioning. After a series of potentially incriminating answers, she's asked to return for another interview, including the detailing of her bank accounts. But a day before the hearing, she commits suicide.
And the FBI did not get involved immediately. But that changed in October 1933 when FDR announced the FBI would take over jurisdiction. So yes, there is more to the story behind the story.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Do you know why I endorse Cafe Napoli, all the locations? Visit any of them, and you will quickly appreciate the quality of food, service, atmosphere. So maybe I'll see you at Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli Kirkwood, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. Or maybe you'll find me at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Now you know why I endorse Napoli, NapoliSTL.com.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
On March 2nd, 1932, spurred on by public demand, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover announces the full backing of the investigative agency and the Department of Justice, pledging any and all of the Federal Bureau's resources to find the murderer. Along with federal support, experts spanning across industries share their knowledge to help find the killer. Handwriting specialists examine the ransom notes and judge the writer to be of German nationality. Re-examinations of Dr. Condon's meetings with the man calling himself John corroborate these claims, and dialect teams analyze Condon's attempt to mimic John's accent to further narrow down potential matches. Even woodwork aficionados chip in to help solve the mystery. Arthur Kohler of the United States Department of Agriculture examines the ladder left at the scene of the kidnapping, allowing officials to narrow down suspects even further to those with access to specific types of wood and carpentry tools. Even with an army of experts and the full backing of the FBI, the kidnapper remains at large.
But again, the baby had been found on this date, May 12th, 1932. A delivery truck driver, I should say, found baby Lindbergh about 4.5 miles south of the home. But of course, the investigation continued. Who did this? The FBI quickly started getting involved in trying to track the money. Serial numbers were dispersed to everyone who might come across them.
As matching serial numbers pop up, the FBI pins the location on a map, slowly but surely indicating the movement of the money, and perhaps the individual or individuals responsible for the crime. On September 18, 1934, a banker phones the New York City Bureau about a deposit involving a $10 gold certificate, matching one used in the ransom. Authorities quickly jump to track the gold note's path to the bank and trace it to a gas station on 127th and Lexington. The attendant provides the Bureau with the license plate number of the purchaser, noting it after suspicions that his appearance matches the description of the infamous kidnapper. The license plate is registered to a German carpenter, Bruno Richard Hauptmann. The authorities immediately investigate, and the evidence is damning. Hauptmann perfectly matches Dr. Condon's description of the kidnapper, and his recent transactions are dominated by $10 and $20 gold certificates. Gold certificates are discovered in his home and in his pockets, and writing samples match the illegible and broken English content of the ransom letter. Finally, after 2 years, the Lindbergh kidnapper and murderer of 20-month-old Charles Jr. is caught.
At least in the view of police and investigators. Hauptmann charged with capital murder on the basis of the ladder, some of the money found in his possession, obviously. The defense offered a lengthy explanation trying to she'll know there are plenty of other reasons to explain why this happened. His wife came forward to kind of help support her husband, but he was convicted Feb 13, 1935, immediately sentenced to death. The attorneys appealed directly to the New Jersey court. And even the New Jersey governor met with Hauptmann quietly, secretly, in his cell on the evening of October 16, trying to see if he could get additional information. Hauptmann lost the first appeal but filed a second, asking for clemency from the New Jersey Board of Pardons. And that was denied. He did turn down a large offer from the Hearst newspaper for a confession. He refused a last-minute offer to commute the sentence from the death penalty to life without parole in exchange for a confession. So he was executed in the electric chair April 3rd, 1936. There are still many questions about it and many theories. A number of books written about the crime itself and about Hauptmann specifically. One author, a fingerprint expert, and it was the early age of fingerprints, said there are cases in places where he should have touched the ladder. I don't find his fingerprints. There was still another book saying that Hauptmann was guilty but questioned whether he should have been executed. Still another claims that he got a signed confession from an attorney involved with Hauptmann. Baby Lindbergh had been found and laid to peace. Hauptmann ended up being electrocuted, and questions still surround that case. Tomorrow, our story behind the story, the John Birch Society. Who was John Birch? What is the society? What is it doing today compared to yesteryear? And maybe planning for the future. We still have our second hour to come. And don't forget our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. There's only one place you can get pizza cooked over coals, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Of course, Napoli Brothers has a great selection of pasta dishes. Between the pizza and pasta, trust me, you will not leave hungry. Then, a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, a wide variety of quality cigars, each offering a unique smoke. That cigar, some premium whiskey, all you need to do is enjoy. Lit Cigar Lounge and Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, Chesterfield Valley. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Let's be candid, honest. No out-of-state law firm can represent you better than Onder Law. O-N-D-E-R. Hometown roots, attorneys living right here with you and your family. When you suffer an injury because someone else was negligent, Onder Law will make sure the other party takes full responsibility. You'll get full compensation, not a backroom deal worked out with some insurance companies. And of course, we're moving into the stormy season. And again, when you have a legitimate claim, you should be properly compensated. Onder Law does not toy around with adjusters, investigators, lawyers trained to cheat you of what is rightfully yours. Onder Law has already recovered millions for families across Missouri and Illinois. Onder wins. Not just a catchy phrase, it's a fact. So I'll repeat it. Onder wins. OnderLaw.com. O-N-D-E-R. OnderLaw.com. Wins.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We always have concerns, but with this president and these Republicans who have no commitment to the rule of law and doing things the appropriate way, we're ready. We have three purposes now. One is to win the midterms. Two is to make sure the elections are safe. And three, to tell people what we will do when we win. And that is the mission. There's so many things that you can do to protect the election, and they are being done, whether it's litigation or legislation or just mobilization, communication, all of that. But in addition to that, we have to be on guard as to what they may try to do to the technology. They may try to creep into the technology and create a false count.
How do you guard against that?
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge. But Pelosi, your party knows how to do that. They've done it repeatedly. Early and often voting. And ballots being held back until we see, do we need some more votes? Yeah, we do. Get those in here. Unsigned, undocumented, and in some cases, illegals voting in federal elections. And Nancy Pelosi, still trying to be relevant, saying we need to be on guard. The Trump team will try to steal the election. This is the same Nancy Pelosi who led the charge to help impeach Trump. And, of course, going after the J6ers. When we know now that that election probably was stolen. We know a lot of the facts behind the case are proven. Biden knew there was no Russian collusion story. He was told that directly by CIA Director Brennan. And in the presence of Vice President Biden at the time, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and former FBI Director Comey. They were all told it's a hoax. It's a dirty tricks campaign. They did nothing to stop it. So her party knows all about how to cheat an election, and yet here she wants to come out and say, we got to be careful. Trump will try to steal this election. And you talk about the things they do if they don't like what they're getting and they don't like results, trying to disqualify everything. We're going to get into that in more detail as we move forward. But while we're talking about elections, let me take a moment to remind you, because the date is fast approaching now. Here we are, May 12th. Tuesday, June 2nd, at Lindenwood University, the Hammond Institute will host the St. Charles County Executive Debate. The current county executive, Steve Ellman, debating challengers, former Missouri State Senator Bill Eigel, and Jason Law, former mayor of Lake St. Louis and current lieutenant colonel with the St. Louis County Police Department. This will be a 90-minute debate. Our own Jamie Allman will serve as the host. Panelists will include Mike Ferguson of NewsTalkSTL and Mike Ferguson Morning Show, and also our morning personality, Susie Moore, who's the assistant managing editor of Red State, and Dan Fox, managing editor of the Mid-Rivers News magazine. Lindenwood University and NewsTalkSTL partnering up with the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee and Mid-Rivers News magazine to present this debate. You can be there and watch it in person. 7 o'clock, June 2nd, on the campus of Lindenwood University. And on that night, we will cut Larry Connors USA short by 1 hour, because we will be carrying that debate live right here on NewsTalkSTL. So if you can't be there, you can listen to it. Again, June 2nd. Make your plans to be there, you family, friends, and others. They'll make room for you. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. And with Larry Connors USA, you are always going to get news, analysis, commentary, and education. And we're going to talk in more detail later about the latest inflation numbers and what's fact, what's a mixture of fact and fiction, and what is pure BS. And later this hour, Alaska considered ground zero for fighting all those who worship at the altar of the green environmental god. In the meantime, you talk about how the Democrats want you to believe that we are the party of trust and credibility. Well, on their watch, we have seen massive amounts of fraud. Dr. Oz, of course, watching over our Medicare and Medicaid system, says if you take a look at some of the things that they have done, this, you have to keep in mind, is not just stealing, quote, tax dollars. It's stealing health benefits you and your family could use, because it's going to people who don't need it and are ripping it off. Listen to this shocking number from Dr. Oz.
I'm going to put in the context everyone can get real clear on. 1 in 3 hospices in the entire country are in Los Angeles. Not in California, just L.A. And again, this is all taking place under the nose of the current leadership of California. But the hospice fraud, it's not just about stealing money. They're stealing your life. They're taking away your health. They're stealing from our most vulnerable in ways that are so reprehensible. I would have thought that alone would have been morally compelling enough to act. And here's the deal for anyone just worried about the money part of it. If we take the fraud out of Medicare, just Medicare alone, we would double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund, which means if you're working right now and you're worried about Medicare being there for you, or if you're on Medicare now and you're worried that it might have some financial issues, we would double its life expectancy if we just took the fraud out of the system. In aggregate, Medicare, Medicaid, it's about $100 billion that we're looking at now that we can bring back into the Treasury.
As where it should be, to extend the life of the Medicare Trust Fund. One of the independent journalists who's been looking into some of all the fake billings happening, especially dealing with, hospice care and everything else they make up when it doesn't really exist, he found something that is very interesting. In Maine.
All right, so we're in Windham, Maine, Friday morning. Probably the most surreal thing that I have found since we've started doing home health care. We've got Zara Home Care LLC being run out of a trailer in Windham. Once again, the zombie offices, but see, this is a zombie office on wheels now. Like, it's a mobile zombie office, because hours are posted, home health care, Nobody's home. Nobody answers the phone. In a residential area, we've got cars over here with no plates on them, and they're billing your tax dollars for home health care out of a trailer. So, zombie on wheels.
Yeah, exactly. The left continues to want everything you have. If they don't get it, then they destroy what they can. Look at what they've been doing with the courts. Their plans, they've already announced, if we get back in charge, we will pack the Supreme Court. Look at what Democrats in Virginia are doing right now, because the Virginia Supreme Court killed a gerrymandered scheme, redrawing the state's congressional map that was going to be in the Democrats' favor, basically on a political bias. No, racial bias. And then look what they've done to education for our children. Look how they continue to attack Border Patrol trying to secure our nation. Look at what they're doing against ICE, trying to get illegals, threats out of our nation. And then you have Senator Chuck Schumer.
If you want to understand Republicans' priorities right now, just look at the $72 billion reconciliation bill they revealed last week. The Republican bill would pump tens of billions of dollars into ICE and Border Patrol without any guardrails to prevent these rogue agencies from continuing to unleash violence on American streets.
No, that's not what it is doing. If you want to make that statement, Chuck Schumer, you're certainly permitted to do so. But where are you out there attacking all the fraud that's been taking place on the watch of Democrats? California, and of course in Minnesota. And Tom Homan, our border czar, says all of this continues to permeate throughout the Democrat Party. Look what New York Governor Hochul is doing.
There's no other reason you'd want significant public safety threats to walk the street in New York. I looked at a list just this morning, and I looked at a list of top 20. Here's the charges: homicide, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, rape, sexual assault, homicide, sexual assault, homicide, rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, sexual assault, rape, homicide. I can go on and on and on. Top 20 we arrested off the streets of New York because her administration refused to work with us and honor our detainers. She is making New York less safe. President Trump has done more to protect the citizens of New York than she has.
That's a fact. Can't be denied. But here's what is going on. While all of this is taking time and effort from those trying to enforce laws and the law of our land, terrorists, Islamists in particular, are using the distraction to go about doing what they want to do. Texas Congressman Gill.
I would rather preserve the America that we know and love so that my daughter and my son can grow up in that country, as opposed to growing up in a world where they go to the mall in Dallas, Texas, and you see 90% of the people wearing burqas and speaking foreign languages.
And yet that's what's happening across Europe. I pointed it out numerous times. Look at what is happening in Europe. France losing their culture, basically. Spain, they opened the door to migrants. It would not be illegal at that point. They opened the door for them. They wanted them to come in, much like Joe Biden did for our nation. Thank you, Joe Biden. And we're going to pay that price for a long time to come. And they see nothing wrong with it. They think that's the way we should be running this nation. Well, that's not true, obviously. And on top of that, one voice is crying out, "Wake up, America!"
There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%. You're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, most Germans were peaceful, yet the Nazis drove the agenda, and as a result, 60 million people died, 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant.
That is Bridget Gabriel. She is the founder of ACT, which is fighting constantly against Islamic extremists. Now, again, the numbers. She points out that we have 1.2 billion Muslims around the world, 1.2 billion. The majority, she says, are peaceful. But within that 1.2 billion, 300 million are radical. And those are the ones that are constantly trying to destroy civilization and you, your religion, anything else they don't like. Those are the jihadists. They are radical, and they continue to extend their tentacles. And we have more of them radicalized inside our nation right now because Joe Biden did say open the border. Again, I say thank you, Joe Biden. Again, I like the point that Bridget Gabriel pointed out. There are peaceful Muslims. Out of 1.2 billion, not all of them are radicalized. But within the midst of those 1.2 billion, at least 300 million are radical. And they continue to expand their influence, even reaching outside their religion, reaching into anyone lost, confused, doesn't know what to do with their life. They can become a weapon. Well, take note of this. Dr. Oz, while we were talking about fraud that exists throughout our nation right now, he says, again, according to our medical administrator, Dr. Oz, he said, we've got the Chinese government involved in a big fraud ring in New York. And we also believe that Russia and Cuban governments are involved. He said, the former mayor of Miami pointed out to me, we've got twice as many durable medical equipment suppliers. They sell wheelchairs and canes, twice as many as there are McDonald's in South Florida. And all the owners seem to be Cubans. And they flee back to Cuba with the money when we come after them. Communists operating inside our shores, carrying out more fraud with the help of Russia and China and Cuba. Well, of course, President Trump will be meeting with Premier Xi tomorrow, starting a 2-day session. We will have Gordon Chain, an expert on China, joining us Friday. By then, we will know what they did or did not accomplish at that meeting. And you'll want to be here with us Friday for Gordon Chain's evaluation of how the meeting went. Trump in Beijing arriving, if not already there at this moment. By the way, they're having a meltdown in L.A. when it comes to the mayoral candidates. They have had to cancel a mayoral debate. The existing mayor, Karen Bass, pulled out, as did one of her opponents on the Democrat side. And the Republican Spencer Pratt said, well, what the hell should I be? There's not going to be a debate. If you just want to give me airtime, they're not going to. So there'll be nothing there. The chaos continues in California. Coming up, help for young parents, especially young mothers. When you need the help the most, we'll have that story. And also, is Alaska the last stand to protect America? Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Spring weather has everyone sneezing, even inside their home or building. Instead of saying Gesundheit, call Wellington Environmental to perform air tests to determine if mold levels are too high. Gesundheit is the same as saying bless you after someone sneezes, the German word meaning wishing you good health. Wellington Environmental can perform air testing that is simple, fast, and can identify issues keeping you from having good health. Wellington does the same for hospitals and nursing homes for indoor concerns. Give them a call. It's simple. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Tell Cindy, I need air sampling. They've seen it all. They can help you. Next time you hear Gesundheit, think Wellington. Wellington Environmental. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is Silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Run, run, run with a railroad when their backs are turned. Run, run, run with a railroad when their backs are turned. Run, run, run with a railroad. Get out of their sight. When the engine turns, then you gotta move on, and you gotta move on at night.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. Let me set the stage for you. You know President Trump had a deregulatory push, but some are saying there was a loophole inside of it that allows the Democrats to continue to kill federal permits, even on projects already built and operating. Obama used it on a West Virginia coal mine 4 years after permits were issued. Of course, that was before Trump got in. Biden used it in Alaska's Pebble project. They've used it on the Alaska natural gas pipeline, boundary waters in Alaska. And my guest is the executive director of Alaska Miners Association, Deantha Skabinski. Glad to have you with us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So you're saying basically right now, looking at what's happening with trying to, one, move our nation forward and keep us leading other nations, fighting against these regs and the possible loophole that exists, that Alaska is ground zero. Please explain.
So in my role as Alaska Miners Association, representing all aspects of the mining industry in Alaska, I might have a teeny bit of a bias, but I feel like Alaska is ground zero for all sorts of opposition of development, whether it's within the mining industry or beyond. I think that there's a certainly national, perhaps beyond that, narrative that Alaska is one of the last great parks of Alaska. It's one of the last great wilderness areas, and we just got to save it from future development. And so we really have been ground zero for entities and individuals that oppose economic development projects in our country.
Well, you do have your mining industry, I understand, is a major economic driver. You've got zinc, lead, gold, silver, copper, coal, and of course all the critical minerals, and ranked as a top global destination for mineral investment. And yet,
absolutely,
and yet you still have others saying, "Shut it all down, walk away from it."
Right.
Why and
Yes,
how do you
I mean,
how
to
do you
your
fight
point,
back? How do you fight back?
So we fight back by telling our story. You know, we have some really exemplary mines doing incredible things from a safety and environmental standard. And then to your point, being major economic drivers of their community and the state. I would pose to anyone that thinks that an Alaska mining project isn't doing a good job, please visit, please call me. I'll take you there. And I think your mind will be pretty blown at the incredible environmental protection and performance. It's very likely you will see a lot of different abundant wildlife at the mines. You'll see people that are proud to work there. It really is a great story if folks are willing to open their eyes and listen.
But the belief is that, oh, if you're mining and you're doing all of this, you're destroying wildlife and wildlife habitat, and you don't care about preserving the beauty and the life of your state.
Yeah, that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Well, I know that yesterday, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum on an interview had said, well, what we need right now is less lawyers, more miners.
I love that very much. I could not agree more.
He says that right now, energy jobs and mining and others, drill baby drill, map baby map, that's a surefire long-term career, when others are saying, no, if you get into it, you'll be out of work pretty soon.
Nope, I disagree. I mean, it's a simple fact of the matter is the minerals that are being produced all over the world, certainly in the United States and Alaska, they're critical by a regulatory definition, but more importantly, they're critical based on what humans need to survive and succeed. And we are not going to stop using minerals. In fact, it could not be less opposite. It could not be more opposite than that in terms of, mineral demand is skyrocketing for what we need for basic human needs, to our technology changes, all of the things that are changing rapidly in our world. Demand for minerals of all types is just going up and up and up. So the practice of extracting minerals from the ground isn't going away. It's up to us if we want to do that in the United States or rely on jurisdictions that don't like us and don't mind contaminating the environment and having, labor standards that none of us would find attractive.
Well, to that extent, you mentioned labor. I understand there are 12,000 plus that are involved in your mining industry. Is that number correct?
That's correct. In Alaska, we do an economic report every year, and there are 12,000 people that work within Alaska's mining industry, whether they work directly in a mine or if they have a position at a support company that is responsible for providing goods and services to a mine.
Now, that's an excellent point, because it's not just the miners, it's all the ancillary jobs that come with it.
Absolutely. It's a huge, huge number in Alaska. It's almost double the amount of the folks that work in the actual mines. And last year, the mines in Alaska alone spent $1 billion with Alaska-based businesses. That's just money at Alaska-based businesses that are going to buy goods or services that keep that mine going. So the procurement economic benefit is massive.
You're listening to Deanna Skobinski, the Executive Director for Alaska Miners Association, and admitting in the beginning you might be a little biased. You damn well better be if you're going to be charging with the Alaska miners, right? So what do you have to do to convince the persuasive part of the public that realizes that, we shouldn't just shut down everything. We need it. We have it available. Why rely on another nation or country? Why do we not use the God-given resources for this nation?
Absolutely. We're working really hard with our partners across the nation, whether it's mining associations in other states or national ones, but we also bridge the gaps with other industries, with the manufacturing sector, and really anyone that's within the network of bringing minerals and energy to the American people, to educate and say, we are an open door, we are a resource for you, but what we'd like you to know is the reality of the environment at these sites across the United States. They are safe, they are environmentally respectful, they're good community neighbors, So I would like to think that the average American finds all of those to be admirable qualities. So if that is the case, if we have a good foundation for operating responsibly, then why wouldn't we pursue and get all of those minerals right here in America, again, where we can trust their source and we know that they're benefiting Americans and the communities that we live in.
Some of those strips that you're mining right now stretch into Canada. What's the relationship?
We have a great relationship with Canada. I can really only speak for Alaska, but, we're the closest neighbors in terms of the amount of size and acreage we're sharing. And our state agencies in Alaska work really close with the provinces of British Columbia and the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories to make sure that there's a lot of collaboration. There is, minerals don't listen to geology and borders. And so there many times could be a mine on one side of the border, but there is either environmental impacts on the other side of the border, or in some cases there's collaboration, workforce development benefits, and sort of a sharing impact. But we have a great relationship with our partners on the other side of the border here in Alaska, where we just try to maximize on all of the benefits and make sure that we're being transparent and sharing all of the information to ensure that safety and environmental is always held at the forefront.
There is still that issue that we raised as I introduced you, that there's considered a gaping hole in Trump's deregulatory push that is allowing future Democrat EPA to retroactively kill any federal permits, even on projects already built and operating. In other words, coming in and saying, shut the mine down, you're no longer valuable, and you're spoiling our environment.
Right. And I think it is a gaping hole in terms of the whole big picture right now. But we have to realize that this is actually a section of the Clean Water Act. It's Section 404C, where EPA can come in and veto a project. And when it was written, it did not have the appropriate sideboards to say when EPA could exercise its veto authority. So in your great introduction, thank you for that. You talked about how it was really unfairly done in a retroactive fashion at the Mingo Logan coal mine in West Virginia, where they had all their permits in hand, had been operating, and were employing many, many people. And EPA came in and just shut them down using that veto authority instead of using all of its various other authorities to work with, like within the permitting system, to say, whatever we don't like about this, why don't we assess it and fix it instead of vetoing and shutting it down? It's a different in terms of a timeline scale, but in Alaska at the Pebble Project, it started in the Obama administration, and they actually used a preemptive veto prior to the Pebble Project even applying for any permits. So the agency didn't know what the company was proposing to do in terms of what the mine would look like, and still came in and exercised a veto. And then the Biden administration did it again. So this is rooted in law, but the law has to be fixed. And for the Trump administration, the regulations need to be reviewed. So this can't be exercised at an inappropriate time.
And yet regulations can serve a good purpose. You would agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And you live there. You want to protect your environment.
Absolutely. I fish out in the Bristol Bay area at least once a year. It's incredible. That's probably one area we can agree on. But there are always specific environmental requirements for any mine site in the United States. And if a company is able to go through our nation's environmental process and prove they can do it responsibly, which the Pebble Project did, as well as the Mingo Logan Project, then they deserve to have a fair shake. And this is something you'll see if you go into the record. There are dozens of companies and associations that are far outside the mining industry that don't represent miners that have opposed this because of precedent.
All right, we'll get back to you in the future. Deanna Skobinski, Executive Director, Alaska Miners Association. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You bet. Coming up, Joe Biden still proclaiming how intelligent Hunter is and why he is being hunted.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
When insurance companies know you're represented by Onder Law, they know Onder is not going to let you be pushed around. Their reputation is built on years of courtroom battles. If you suffer an injury or damage to your property, serve the insurance company notice you have under law on your side. A St. Louis firm you can trust to protect you at every term. Don't settle for less. You want to win? Believe me, Under wins. Under, O-N-D-R, underlaw.com. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. When I have business clients or guests from out of town, I often take them to Cafe Napoli. I know they're going to enjoy any of the Napoli locations. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, next to Napoli C, Napoli Kirkwood, or Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Excellent food and intellectual conversation, if they bring the intellectual conversation. And NapoliSTL.com. NapoliSTL.com. You should know that when I endorse Wellington Environmental, it's because I believe and know they will do you right. Wellington takes pride in providing homeowners and businesses whatever they need. You need some dustless blasting, they will take care of that. You need some mold remediation, they can do that. They take pride in training their team to perform multiple services and having the equipment ready to get jobs finished. That's important to you. You make just one call, and you call a company that's been around for more than 35 years with more than 45 technicians in the field. Most of you know finding good workers, then having them show up on time could be difficult. Not for Wellington Environmental. They're there at the designated time, ready to go. Check them out to see what they could do for you. Dustless blasting or anything else you need. Wellington Environmental, 314-644-4930. 314-644-4930. Be well with Wellington.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We have great confidence in our son. I am not concerned about any accusations been made against him. It's used to get to me. I think it's kind of foul play, but look, it is what it is, and he's a grown man. He is the smartest man I know. I mean, in a pure intellectual capacity.
Hunter Biden is the smartest man I know. Now, again, that is Hunter Biden's father, Joe Biden. He's proud of his son. And I'm sure that he's very proud of the money he brought into the family through his various deals. Remember the Burisma deal? Got on with an oil company, making a lot of money. Knows nothing about the oil and energy business, but he was Joe Biden's son. That's a qualification right there. Hell, you can run NASA if you're Joe Biden's son, but I'm not going to ride in one of the satellites. Are you? Joe Biden continues to defend his son. We'll accept that as a father's love for his son. I will not take that away from him, but I'm also going to point to the facts of how intelligent Joe Biden is. He continues to face numerous charges. Are you aware of that? You might have forgotten because it's kind of been pushed back for right now. But even as of this month, he's facing continued legal fallout after he got that pardon by his dad in 2024. And he got disbarred in Connecticut as an attorney. And he still has unpaid legal debts. All the lawyers he hired to defend him, he hasn't paid them. Well, now, you can spit in the face of a lot of people, but when you spit in the face of your own lawyers, they're going to come after you. Hunter Biden recently criticized Democrats as elites regarding how his father had to get out of the 2024 campaign. Where is he now? He is living abroad. That's the latest word. Would you like his address? You want his phone number? All right, get ready to copy. I'm going to give you... Nah, I don't have it. Got you pulled in a little bit there. But he has disappeared. Probably found Eric Swalwell's Bang Bang from China or others. Now, despite giving that presidential pardon from Daddy, he's still been active in criticizing political figures. That includes other Democrats, and including actor George Clooney. He said all of them campaigned to get together and force his father out of the campaign. He should have stayed in the campaign. Nancy Pelosi would also be among those who said, Joe's got to go. He can't do anything for us. All he can do is hurt us. And, of course, their fallback was the wonderful, intelligent, brilliant, the wheels go round and around on the bus, Kamala. And right now, who do the Democrats have ready to come in and run in the next general election? Between you and me, no one. They have no one. They'll prop somebody up. We know that. Josh Shapiro would probably be a very good candidate for them. But Shapiro, that's Jewish, isn't it? They don't want to get too closely aligned to the Jews because too many inside their ranks are anti-Semitic. I'm looking at one source here, and it involves court filings revealed in 2026 that Hunter Biden has moved abroad, and reports in that same court filing indicating Hunter has not repaid debts to a former associate and owes $20 million, a large part of that to his lawyers. And the IRS whistleblowers who investigated his tax case published a book titled The Whistleblowers versus the Big Guy. Remember how Joe Biden would talk about, when we get this money, we're going to divide it up, and, of course, this part goes to the big guy. That would be Daddy. Never use the term Daddy. So, Larry, you're just kind of making that up, right? No. Just tell me who else is a big guy in Hunter Biden's world. Anyone? Anybody? Of course not. And the Democrats are getting desperate. I mentioned earlier in this hour how if they cannot get what they want, they will do everything they can to destroy whatever you have. They will look to wreck anything, including the U.S. Supreme Court, to step in and start saying, making it clear now, saying the quiet part out loud, we will stack the court. And then in Virginia, because they don't like a ruling there, they want to impose a law that no justice can serve past the age 54. In other words, they want to shake up everything. They want to get rid of all of their judges that they think rule against them when they want what they want. Now, there was a phone call that got leaked. To my knowledge, that's the way this is presented. Now, I'm going to make it very clear to you. I don't have any independent collaboration. The report indicates, and it's involving a report from Fox News, that Hakeem Jeffries was speaking with Virginia House members on how to eliminate the Virginia Supreme Court because they threw out their gerrymandered districts. And just listen.
a leaked account of a call between Virginia House members and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Here's a part of it. Quote, the most dramatic idea they discussed, which would involve an unusual gambit to replace the entire state Supreme Court with a goal of reinstating their gerrymandered map, drew mixed reactions on the call. Oh boy, that leaked? So they can't even all agree on this. The desperate move. 7 justices sit on Virginia's Supreme Court with staggered terms stretching years into the future. Lowering the retirement age would force vacancies, opening the door to refill the bench. The headline for Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley's op-ed is this: angry left plots to purge Virginia's high court. He was on Fox last hour.
These radical ideas are nothing new, but I think the public needs to understand that many of these same voices have been saying publicly that they will pack the Supreme Court as well.
Yeah, they made that very clear. So whether or not you believe this leaked call between Hakeem Jeffries and members of the Virginia legislature talking about how we're going to destroy the Virginia Supreme Court because they didn't rule the way we want. Anyone over 54, you have to come off the court. That would open up several vacancies. And who do you think they're going to fill it with? Oh, they've got people in mind. I'd mentioned at the beginning of today's program because for many it might be the elephant in the room. I'm not going to deny that. Right now, it's costing you more for you and your family. It's costing more for fuel. It's costing more for groceries. And, of course, the left wants to say it's because Trump started a war against Iran. They can say that. And, yes, Trump did take action against Iran because word was, believe it or not, Iran was imminent to having a nuclear weapon. Now, I don't know if that meant days, weeks, months. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And that is why we're doing what we're doing. And yes, it comes at a cost to the American public as well as elsewhere around the world. But this is something that the left is going to push going into midterm. Do not buy the lie. I'm not saying that your world is as good as it was, but it will be better, and it will certainly be a hell of a lot worse if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. Headline from CNN. For the first time in 3 years, wages aren't outpacing inflation. No, they're talking about consumer prices rose sharply in April. Listen to this. Driven by rising energy prices. Yeah, well, normally when inflation numbers are presented, they take out what they call the core index. That would be the cost of fuel and food. If you keep those in right now, well, the prices are up. Inflation at 3.8%. But you take out and consider that the core prices are up 2.8%. Now, I don't want to get you all bogged down in numbers. Basically, you're looking at 40% of the inflation rise is due to the core numbers, which normally are taken out. And yet CNN did a survey and says that 76% of Americans say cost of living issues are their biggest economic problem. As one is quoted and others to be quoted, one said, "My life is not affordable. No one cares." Another, "It's more expensive to exist." Another, "You're just staying afloat instead of getting ahead." Another saying, "It should not be like this." CNN said that this survey has people naming high prices and the cost of living facing their family. And most of them are pessimistic. 7 in 10 believe a recession is likely in the next year. All of this, of course, will be reflected in the midterm elections. That's what the left is counting on. You have to hold the line. And I do know families that are not able to do what they were going to do, can't not do everything they had planned to do, had to put things back. They go to get checked out at the grocery store and realize, I've got to take some things out of the cart. I sympathize with that. I do. Don't think I don't. I've been there, and I'm not saying that I'm that far from it now. But I keep thinking that we've got men and women in harm's way, downrange, in the Middle East region, and we're doing it to make sure Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. It is not about opening the Strait of Hormuz. Other countries are slowly beginning to step in and realize we need to help that happen. And supposedly ships are being allowed to pass. We're no longer escorting them through. What we are doing is, I think, exactly the right thing. We're blocking the Iranian ports. Nothing leaves your port in Iran, and nothing comes into your port. That's the blockade, I think, that will be successful. But the left is going to cry out, woe is me, as we get closer to the midterms. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not saying that's not valid. But I urge you, and use this program, tell others to listen, to look at the bigger picture. It's a bump in the road compared to the future. It's a bump in the road compared to what our forefathers did during World War II. You had the money to buy all the gasoline you wanted, but it was being rationed. You were not allowed to buy more than a certain amount. And, of course, you have families that are young with young children, and you have some that are still expecting. And they're trying to figure out what to do. There is help for expectant parents. Mothers, listen up.
Right, Moms.gov is an incredible resource for every question that you have about what to expect as you are about to welcome a new baby, everything from nutrition to breastfeeding, questions that you might not have known where to go before, but also if you have health needs, federally qualified health centers, but also pregnancy resource centers are there as a resource for you. We are looking forward to helping moms at the full spectrum. We're partnering with states and especially rural areas, making sure that every American has access to these resources, that we can welcome life, and that we can reverse this decline in fertility in the country.
That is a physician, Heidi Overton. The website again, check it out yourself, moms.gov. I'm looking at it right now, and it says resources, information, and help for new and expecting mothers. Some of this involves financial. Some involves just raising a child, having your first baby, maybe your third, maybe planning for the future. But basically addressing the needs of mothers and fathers facing difficult pregnancies, unexpected pregnancies, and ensuring the well-being of all of them. And well-being includes feeding, obviously. Check it out, moms.gov. And I remind you, out of all of my accomplishments in my life, and I think I've had a few that are worthy, but my greatest legacy will be fathering 2 girls who in turn have each given me a grandson. That is my legacy. If you're a parent, that is also your legacy. We will be back here tomorrow at 6. I encourage you to join us, either live or on Rumble or podcast later. And remember our pledge: one nation under God.